We're talking about ETH, the native asset of the Ethereum blockchain. Ether balances on exchange, they're nearing all-time lows. This comes as staked ETH surges following the Shapella upgrade and as the decentralized ecosystem of decentralized exchanges and other DeFi apps perhaps matures a bit, such that getting ETH out into the on-chain world is a bit more attractive than parking it on exchanges. I think this is a super interesting data point, a high signal piece of news, although perhaps a bit drab to some listeners. Let's talk about it and why it matters. I'm going to toss it straight to Adam for his thoughts.
Yeah, so the interesting part sort of about the world of crypto when it comes to yield is that people have always wanted to mine. The first conversation every single person coming into the space for many, many years, and I think still today for a lot of people, was, hey, I heard that I can mine and I can use my hardware in order to make some money, right? And so I think that that's really what we're seeing here. What Ethereum effectively did is as like Bitcoin mining and as many types of mining have become really professionalized, kind of buttoned up industries that require large capital investments, the move over to proof of stake has created the opportunity now for people to get that same type of feeling where they're not really doing anything active themselves. It's not like they're like working at a job or anything, but their money is making money. And again, in a world where JP Morgan, the largest bank by depositors in the US, is offering 0.01% interest, it's pretty appealing, honestly. And now that it seems like some of the bugs have been worked out of the system after a couple of years of upgrades, I think we're to it. So that's my read on it, is that this just makes sense given the current environment. But Jen, what do you think?
Yeah, so I don't know if we can look at the chart, but I'll give some time to control to get the chart up on the screen. It's interesting. We see a drop happen around 2022, the end of 2022, when the FTX fallout happened, right? And that wasn't mentioned in the story, but I think it's some good information to bring up that when FTX imploded, people started taking their currency, taking their money, their assets off chain and looking at hardware wallets and looking at other things to do with it. After FTX, we saw a regulatory crackdown. We saw Kraken, Binance leave different jurisdictions. So I think that information has something to do with the numbers that we're seeing. But definitely, Adam, I think you are absolutely right. People are staking their ETH. The one question I have, though, is staking ETH that profitable right now? The story says, people are opting maybe to stake their ETH, make some passive income instead of trading it. Is it how profitable is it?
Hey, yield is yield. And I think the comparative sort of framing that Adam put out there relative to other sources of yield in the traditional financial system, it does become quite attractive, right? When those yields are high, we saw it with DeFi. Some of these yields were unsustainably high, right? These 20% yields promised by Anchor and other protocols, right? That was not sustainable. We saw, the bad times that came with that. But ETH as sort of a native yield-bearing asset of the crypto ecosystem really is a game changer with its shift to proof of stake. And I think we're seeing economic actors, both big and small, kind of act on this new set of incentives, right? The fact that you can park this asset and, again, get some of that yield that's quite a bit higher relative to traditional sources of yield out in TradFi, I think is very, very attractive. And I think the whole Shapella thing is also really, really relevant, right? This was the upgrade that allowed people to withdraw their staked ETH that had been locked into that contracting, the beacon chain, for a couple of years. There was a lot of speculation as to whether or not the outflows would outstrip the inflows. And I think what we're seeing here, as indicated by this piece and others, is that certainty that you can deposit this ETH and take it out at will has really made the inflows grow much quicker, more quickly than the outflows, right? So you have this net increase of people who are staking this asset to get those yields. And I think that's really strong for the Ethereum sort of economic system going forward. The fact that these large stakers are seeing this as an attractive place to generate yield on their crypto assets. So yeah, Ethereum itself is just kind of a fascinating culture. We talked about Zuzulu yesterday, a fascinating platform in terms of the various things that exist on it. And now sort of this native staking functionality and native yield bearing functionality is quite interesting to watch out, especially in terms of this data as it relates to ETH on exchanges. Adam, tossing it to you.
Yeah, one other kind of point that I think is worth noting here is that by staking ETH, there's effectively two types of speculation that you're engaging in at the same time, right? You're engaging in speculation on the price of Ether itself, which again, for a lot of people, like the best trading strategy that's come out for many of these larger tokens is just to do nothing and to be effectively treat your trading career like you're in a coma. and not able to do anything because it insulates you from some of sort of the swings that can push you to make a choice that you might later regret. It's not a good strategy all the time, but it is a strategy that's worked for a lot of people. And so on the other side, so you've got the, like, just locking up your ETH is positive for that. And if it can turn into more ETH. And then also, again, we're looking at prices right now in the Ether world of around $1,800 per token. That's a price in comparison to close to $5,000. Around $5,000 is where we peaked with this. So if you think about it from that perspective, again, it's both more ETH and then also speculation on the price of ETH and insulating yourself from making short-term decisions about it, which is, again, an interesting dynamic enabled by sort of the upgrade that that Ethereum went through. Jen?
Adam, I'm going to ask you a question that you are going to hate. Can we expect the price of ETH to go up because of this? If we look at the chart, it looks like that we should expect that.
I mean, it means that, again, like if markets are based on supply and demand, then what you're seeing here is a substantial amount of supply that's increasingly being sequestered in a place where it can't trade, which means all other things being equal, if demand remains the same but supply goes down, then price should go up. Now, that's not always how it works, but it is, I agree, the dynamic is there. And I think more importantly, it's a question of when does the next bull cycle start? Because it seems obvious that the next bull cycle will start. And again, as we get into that, I think that's where predictable appreciation will really come in, although it's hard to see that up front.